Would he have agreed to extending qualified majority voting within the Council, to delegating implementing powers to the Commission, to a common security policy, all without any attempt to define or limit them? The answer is yes. He hasn't got a clue about the definition of some of the things he is saying, let alone securing a definition of others. First, yes, we on this side want to increase incentives and reward for extra effort, unlike the opposition. A second point that it is vital that we continue are the strong defence policies, including the nuclear deterrent, whose possession was bitterly opposed by the Kinnock socialists. But we mustn't flinch from the realities. It's easy for politicians to win applause by postponing the day of reckoning. But that is only self-indulgence and deceit. It is what the opposition practiced with relation to these industries in the past. Saddam Hussein started a war. It continues day after day with the killing and murder and torture and brutal treatment of people. Some people, indeed most of this House, have the guts to stand up against it. It's not unusual for minority governments to carry on for a considerable period of time as this one has. What condemns the Prime Minister now is the justified feeling that the substance of matters before the House takes second place to the survival of the government. That feeling is widespread, and it robs this government and the Prime Minister of authority, credibility, and dignity. The only way to renew the authority of parliamentary government is to seek a fresh mandate from the people and to seek it quickly. And we challenge the government to do so before this day is through. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is of course the right and duty of Her Majesty's opposition to challenge the position of the government of the day. It's also their right to test the confidence of this House in the government if they think the circumstances warrant it. I make no complaint about that. But when the right honourable gentleman's windy rhetoric has blown away, what are their real reasons for bringing this motion before the House? Because there were no alternative policies. There were just a lot of disjointed, opaque words. It seemed to me that we'd heard from the right honourable gentleman his customary speech. It was distinguished by paucity of argument. 11 years ago, we rescued Britain from the parlous state to which socialism had brought it. I remind this House that under socialism, this country had come to such a pass that one of our most able and distinguished ambassadors felt compelled to write in a famous dispatch, a copy of which found its way into The Economist, the following words. He said, "We talk of ourselves without shame as being one of the less prosperous countries of Europe. The prognosis for the foreseeable future," he said in 1979, "was discouraging. Conservative government has changed all that." As the honourable member knows, the two are not connected, but I'm amazed that he denies working people shares in their own industry. Makes them to have any independence. Socialism is not the doctrine of independence, it's the doctrine of dependence of people under the control of socialist government, and they hate it. And I think that the honourable gentleman knows that I have the same contempt for his socialist policies as the people of East Europe who have experienced it have it for theirs. think I must have hit the right nail on the head when I pointed out that the logic of those policies are they'd rather have the poor poorer. Once they start to talk about the gap, they'd rather the gap were that. Down here. That. Not that. But that. So long as the gap is smaller, so long as the gap is smaller, they'd rather have the poor poorer. You do not create wealth and opportunity that way. You do not create a property-owning democracy that way.
Deal with both analysis and policies. But first, I would like to spend one moment on looking at the Labour Party's credentials for bringing this motion before the House. Of course they won't want me to. It exposes just exactly what happened when they put their policies into practice. Their first act on taking up office in 1974 was to introduce the same quack remedies. They then introduced the same quack remedies which they advocate today. In their first year, they increased public spending by £15 billion in today's money. By August 1975, inflation reached the record level of 26.9%. Record inflation, the record held by the socialist government. And did that extra expenditure and extra inflation cause unemployment to fall? Of course not. 1 year later, they had more than doubled the unemployment level they'd inherited. Yeah. And what they have to prove now is why, when those policies had that effect then, they would not have a similar effect if they were put into execution today. Yeah. By the autumn of when I have finished this particular point, as the honourable gentleman knows I customarily do, by the autumn of 1976, Labour's credit was exhausted. No one would lend them money, and they had to go to the IMF for help. That was their policy and practice. Record inflation, and it doubled unemployment.
No amount of distance lends enchantment to the lean years of Labour, which gave us the lowest growth rate in Europe, the highest strike record, and, for the average family, virtually no increase in take-home pay. Labour's policies are a vote of no confidence in the ability of British people to manage their own affairs.